I'm a Christian and I can say this in public. Some might smile wearily, some might be pleasantly surprised, but it really doesn't matter. Anyone can think what he or she wants, at least in England nowadays. But we don't have to travel far to reach other countries where this isn't the case, where there is some degree of pressure to join in the majority religion. In some regions, it's better to keep your mouth shut if you are a Christian. If I wasn't Robert Anthony, but Saeed Abedini, I would be in prison for my religious beliefs. If I was Samuel Nyack, the same faith I can represent here freely would have cost me my life. And a few centuries ago, this was also the case in England. Throughout history, religious freedom could never be taken for granted. And according to the book of Revelation, it won't be in the future either.
Looking at the throne and the Lamb, we have totally lost sight of the dragon. The last time we saw him, we witnessed his grim attempt to destroy the woman. But she escapes, and the dragon turns to her descendants. This means the people who, in the end, will be on God's side. This was at the end of chapter 12 in the book of Revelation. Now we will have a look at the beginning of chapter 13. And the dragon is... where is he?
And the dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. He had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on his horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but it had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. The whole world was astonished and followed the beast.
Well, this is the strangest creature that appears in this book. A 7-headed lion, bear, leopard with a serious wound. The parts of this odd combination, now this won't surprise us anymore, are taken from the Old Testament. In the book of Daniel, the prophet uses it to describe different political and religious forces. The horns, the crowns, the blasphemous names, the bear and leopard, everything is there. Even the time frame of the first reign is identical, but why will this animal be on earth at the end of time? This also is nothing new. The book of Revelation says the animal will insult God, will blaspheme the name of God, his sanctuary, and all who live in heaven, and will fight against those belonging to God. It's certainly not difficult to guess who is behind the animal pursuing his plans in secret. John leaves no doubt.
The dragon gave the beast his power and throne and great authority.
It's like in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I still remember quite well the picture in the storybook. Snow White would never ever have taken an apple from the queen, but a present from an old farmer's wife? Why not? Not only in the stories of the Brothers Grimm and even the serpent, everywhere in history disguise is a strategy to achieve a goal where you would never succeed if you were honest. How is the evil being to get close to his victim when everyone knows that he is evil? And so the dragon disappeared and is now working with his new identity. He doesn't have to show his real face. He doesn't repel anybody by asking, "I am the devil, do you want to follow me?" He has established an earthly power which blasphemes God and still appears to be harmless. He pursues people for seemingly plausible reasons without being held accountable. At the end of time, using this disguise, he comes very close to the fulfillment of his great dream. The book of Revelation says that the whole earth will admire the animal and worship the dragon because he has given the animal all his power.
And this is what the dragon really wants, what he's always wanted: to be worshipped. He wants to take the place of the one who is worshipped throughout the universe. Well, the dragon certainly suspects that he has lost the universal war, but he still perceives opportunities in our world. Here, the dragon doesn't have to defeat God, the dragon only has to replace him, only to take the same place in the hearts of men. The dragon would do anything to get his way, and he has more than one method at his disposal.
Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. And it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of the people. Because of the signs, it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast. It deceived the inhabitants of the earth.
An animal that performs miracles. Obviously, the dragon doesn't stop at religion. He has nothing against spiritual feelings or ceremonies. He's not against religious ecstasies or supernatural experiences as long as they don't result in the worship of God. Have you realized how these 3 powers work together in brilliant synergy? The dragon and his 2 animals. The first one is slaughtered and comes to life again, then he obtains complete power over all nations. Finally, the second animal appears and performs great miracles and leads all people to the first animal. And to what end? Well, they worship God the dragon. The longer one deals with this echo of the Divine Trinity, the more clearly one can see the similarities with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
The dragon imitates God, and in doing so cheats his way to worship. He pretends being pious and takes advantage of our spiritual longings. The dragon has exceptional abilities to imitate others and disguise himself. The Book of Revelation says that he will succeed in casting a spell over the majority of humanity. Then he can be their god. But there is one thing the dragon can't do. And here this is conveyed more clearly than almost anywhere else. The dragon likes being worshipped, but he does not leave it up to his potential worshippers to choose to worship the dragon. Everyone who resists is at imminent risk of execution. Everyone, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, is forced to carry the mark of the beast, without which one can neither buy nor sell.
I can still see myself as a student sitting in the administrative offices of the high school I was studying at. A classmate and I had wanted to ask for permission to miss one lecture. It was a meeting on a Saturday or Sabbath, which we wanted to have off. The director looked at us benevolently and said that he had the greatest understanding for the conflict we found ourselves in, and if we needed a written note explaining why we couldn't attend church, that wouldn't be a problem. If need be, he could turn a blind eye and give us 1 or 2 hours off. Politely, we explained that we wanted to take the whole day off for worship. We assured him of our willingness to catch up and attend any make-up lectures, and he smiled at us while thinking over our point of view. Then he leaned back and said, "Hopefully you are aware that I have the power to kick you out of school." To this day, I'm still astonished at how fast this man was able to switch from an attitude of absolute understanding to threatening us with professional consequences. Within the space of 1 minute, his tolerance gave way to a dictatorial mindset. Strange.
We see a similar dynamic in the dragon. He is always charming but knows how to apply pressure in the end, whether political or economical. Anyone who is willing to defer will be brought to his knees. From the beginning of the world, the serpent has used temptation. But for those who don't let themselves be lulled, the friendly smile will suddenly disappear. Then a global system of oppression will be installed. When I imagine this taking place in the future, I have a queasy feeling in my stomach. But the Book of Revelation isn't intended to frighten us. Those who are on God's side have nothing to fear, and that's exactly why the dragon reveals his true character through his dictatorship. No disguise is possible, however, God never acts in this way. When there is pressure, especially in questions of faith, God is never involved.
God deals with his creatures in a totally different way. He doesn't want to be adored at all cost. That thought is repellent to him. Only those that bow before him who of their own accord see him as worthy. That's why he made this risky decision from the beginning. He gives his creatures freedom. All humans are free to love him or to turn away from him. And has he lost a lot through this approach? Yes, an immeasurable amount. But he still couldn't force us. In Eden, the serpent tried to represent God as the one who wants to control and limit humans. Offering the forbidden fruit, the serpent promised total freedom. But the tree itself must have proven that the serpent was lying. The existence of the tree showed that God gave us the possibility to choose to stay with him or to go away. Now, in contrast, Satan never gave us a tree. He couldn't set us free and risk being rejected by us. As soon as humans were on his side, they were captives with no way out. They were slaves.
And who comes from the other end of the universe to our desolate planet to free us slaves with his blood? The God we have turned away from. This is what the book of Revelation says. It shows that in the end, God isn't willing to abandon humanity to the pressure of worshipping the dragon. God sees them all, the crowds, the old and the young, the rich and the poor, with the same mark on their foreheads. Then suddenly the prophet turns his head to a specific group of people.
Then I looked, and there before me was the Lamb, standing on Mount Zion, and with him the 144,000 who had his name and his father's name written on their foreheads.
There are indeed people who don't bear the mark of the beast. That means they are not subject to the coercion everyone else must bear. But wait a moment, they also have a mark on their foreheads. Does this mean they have also been brainwashed, this time by God? What does the name of the Lamb mean? John says that they will be the first to be freed from their sin and are sanctified to God and the Lamb. They are free. Their freedom cost God a lot. It cost him too much for him to wish to buy them to himself unwillingly. These humans stand voluntarily on the side of the Lamb because they know what they owe him. They stand there redeemed. They don't want to go away. Besides, where would they go? Back into suppression. The book of Revelation describes them as those who remained faithful to God and haven't worshipped anyone else. They remained pure and followed the Lamb wherever it went. It seems that these humans have found new happiness in their faithfulness to the Lamb. That's why they keep their eyes glued to the Lamb. They follow the Lamb wherever it goes. In doing this, they experience a freedom they have never known before. What kind of freedom is this, and why do we need it in our free Western part of the world? We often think that freedom means breaking rules and satisfying every appetite, but this is far from being a state of freedom. Try just for one day to have the best interests of others at heart. We live in a free country where we are not subjected to religious persecution. The dragon is still smiling at us. And no one else is holding a gun to our heads and telling us what to do. You might think that we aren't forced into anything at all, yet in many ways we are still not able, not free to do good. Try to treat the most important person in your life in an entirely loving way, just for 1 week. You can't, although you want to. I can't either, at least not without the Lamb. Both the dragon and the Lamb give you freedom to be bad. Wanting and doing good is the freedom you only find in the Lamb.
Becoming free by following somebody wherever he or she goes and giving up one's individual power? My daughter is still very young. Recently, I had to take her with me to a big furniture store to buy a piece of furniture. The trouble began on our way there. We were stuck in a traffic jam. She wouldn't stop complaining. "You know, the place we're going to has a big playroom with a slide," I told her. And that really raised her spirits. Finally, we arrived. We took the elevator up the stairs, and while the doors of the elevator were opening, my daughter could already see the children's play area. "Yippee, here we come." "Wait," said one of the employees, "is your child 3 years old?" "In 6 months' time," I answered. "Oh, children under the age of 3 are not allowed to play here." I hurried to assure her, "Look, I don't want to leave Juliet here. She only wants to go down the slide once or twice, and then I'll take her with me." No, I can't allow that." I stared at the slide in disbelief. It was just over a meter high, and there were no other children in the playroom. What could possibly happen? I assured the woman that I intended to watch my daughter very carefully while she was on the slide. "No, that's not possible," she responded. And my daughter began to cry very loudly. Pleadingly, I looked at her. "Only once?" "No." And I suffered along with my little daughter. I was stressed and disappointed and mad at this employee, this coward, this prim and proper heartless person. While I was doing my shopping, my feelings of resentment grew, and it wasn't until we were back in the elevator and the doors closed that I realized to what extent I was trapped in my own thoughts. And then I suddenly saw him, Jesus, how he looked at my sobbing daughter, full of compassion, but also how he looked at the employee, still full of compassion. He saw the dilemma that she was in. Maybe she was afraid of her supervisor, or maybe she'd already been in a similar situation hundreds of times, or maybe she disliked having this unpleasant job. Jesus wasn't definitely stuck in my unilateral perception. He was free. And only now, after being close to him and seeing the situation through his eyes, was I able to let go. Again, I felt consoled and at peace, and I felt so relieved. If I keep my eyes on him, I am free.